Hey everyone, and welcome back to Talk Tickers, where we like to take these deep dives into earnings calls, and today we're going to be looking at Warner Music Group's Q1 2025 performance.
Yeah, this is one that I've been looking forward to, just because there's so much going on in the music industry right now, and Warner is right there in the thick of it.
Absolutely, and right off the bat, we see some pretty solid numbers. Revenue up 4%. Adjusted OIBDA up 1%.
Yeah, not too shabby, especially when you consider, all the economic headwinds everyone's talking about and the currency exchange rates being all over the place.
Yeah, it's almost like they're trying to compose a symphony while, riding a roller coaster or something.
Right, it's a tough environment, but they're finding a way to hit those high notes.
And I think a big part of that has to be their roster.
Yeah.
You've got the new kids on the block, your Benson Boons and your Teddy Swimses.
Right, those up-and-comers.
Exactly. And then you've got your global superstars like Dua Lipa and Bruno Mars.
Can't forget Bruno Mars.
No. And then of course you've got the classics, the legends like Fleetwood Mac, Aretha Franklin. I mean, that's a catalog that can withstand, just about anything.
Yeah, it's like a musical fortress.
Exactly. But one thing that did jump out at me was that the growth in subscription streaming revenue, it slowed down a bit. 7% growth is good, but it's down from the double-digit growth they were seeing last year.
Yeah, well, we kind of saw this coming. Remember when the digital service providers, your Spotify's and Apple Music, they all raised their prices back in 2024.
Oh, yeah.
So naturally, that's going to affect the year-over-year comparison.
Right. It's like, trying to measure the height of a tree after you've already chopped off a few branches.
So the baseline has shifted.
And speaking of things that affect the bottom line,
yeah,
we got to talk about those foreign exchange headwinds.
Oh, yeah. Those were brutal this quarter.
Yeah. I mean, a 200 basis point reduction in their adjusted OIBDA margin, that's significant.
It is. And you have to remember, over half of Warner Music Group's revenue comes from outside the U.S.
Right.
So when the dollar gets stronger, like it has been recently, it directly impacts their profitability.
Yeah, it really highlights how interconnected the global economy is. Even a music giant like Warner Music Group isn't immune to those currency fluctuations.
No, nobody is immune to the currency gods.
But they're not just, sitting back and taking it. They're actively trying to grow their market share.
Oh, absolutely. They're not just going to sit back and let the tide take them. They're paddling hard.
So how are they doing that?
Well, their strategy is to become the best home for talent at all stages of their careers.
Oh, okay. So from the brand new artists to the seasoned veterans.
Exactly. They want to be the go-to destination for anyone with musical talent.
And they're backing that up with some serious A&R investment.
Oh yeah, they're putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to finding and developing new talent.
For those who may not be familiar with the term, A&R stands for artists and repertoire.
Yeah, they're basically the talent scouts of the music world.
Exactly. They're out there, listening to demos, going to shows, trying to find the next big thing.
And it seems to be working. Just look at Atlantic Records, one of their flagship labels. They increased their market share in the U.S. by 0.5 percentage point compared to last year.
Wow, that's impressive.
It is, especially in such a competitive market.
Yeah, and on the publishing side, Warner Chappell snagged the #2 spot on Billboard's year-end Hot 100 publishing chart. So they're clearly doing something right.
They are. They're hitting on all cylinders.
But it's not just about signing new talent. They're also really emphasizing the importance of working with the DSPs, those digital service providers we were talking about.
Right, the Spotifys and Apple Musics of the world.
Yeah, they're really focused on growing the overall value of music.
It's a smart move. They recognize that, a healthy music ecosystem benefits everyone involved.
Right. It's like they're saying, let's all work together to make the music pie bigger instead of just fighting over slices.
Exactly. A rising tide lifts all boats.
And a good example of that is their recent deal with Spotify.
Oh, yeah, that was a big one.
Now they haven't released the specific details.
Right. It's all hush-hush.
Yeah, but they did highlight it as a positive step towards increasing the value of music for both artists and platforms.
Right. It's a win-win situation.
Okay, so let's talk about another area where Warner Music Group is making moves efficiency.
Okay, streamlining things.
Exactly. They're streamlining their organization, investing in technology, exiting non-core businesses, basically freeing up resources to focus on their core strategic initiatives.
Right, getting lean and mean.
And those initiatives include acquisitions And remember earlier we were talking about how they're using A&R to find and nurture new talent? Well, acquisitions are another way for them to earn proven hit makers under their umbrella.
Right. It's like a shortcut to success.
And that leads us to their big announcement this quarter, the acquisition of a controlling interest in tempo music.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
This is not just any acquisition, folks. Tempo music has a catalog bursting with hits from artists like Bruno Mars' 21 Pilots, Adele, Wiz Khalifa. I mean, the list goes on and on.
It's a treasure trove of hit songs.
It's like they added a whole new wing to their music mansion.
Yeah.
And this one is already generating revenue.
And they have the option to acquire the remaining stake in Tempo by the end of 2027, so they're not even done yet.
So there's even more potential upside down the road, but we've covered a lot of ground already, and there's so much more to unpack with Warner Music Group. So we'll pick it up right after this.
So, this Tempo acquisition really is a game changer for Warner Music Group.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, I mean, think about it. They're not just buying a bunch of hit songs. They're acquiring a platform for future growth.
Okay, I see what you mean.
By gaining more control over this massive catalog of music, they have more leverage in negotiations with the DSPs, more opportunities to, create new revenue streams like merchandise and maybe even some metaverse stuff down the line.
And metaverse, oh man, now you're talking.
But the point is, it gives them more control over their own destiny.
That's a powerful position to be in.
It is, and they're not just relying on the big names either. One thing that really stood out to me in this earnings call was the story of Alphaville's Forever Young.
Forever Young?
Yeah, you know that song from 1984?
Oh yeah, I know that song.
So it recently went viral on TikTok, and it's led to this massive resurgence in streams.
Really?
Yeah, they even released a new version with David Guetta and Ava Max that climbed to #2 on the EU Airplay chart.
Wait, so a song from like almost 40 years ago is charting again?
It is. It's crazy, right?
That's incredible.
It just shows you the power of catalog music.
Mm-hmm.
A song can find new life in the most unexpected ways.
That's great news for Warner Music Group with their, massive library of iconic songs.
Oh, absolutely. And they're not just sitting back and waiting for songs to go viral either. They're actively working to revitalize their catalog through collaborations, new releases, breathing new life into these classic hits.
So they're like the musical equivalent of those house flippers you see on HGTV.
Yeah, exactly. Taking something old and making it new again.
But their strategy goes beyond just reviving old hits.
Mm-hmm.
They're also making significant moves in emerging markets, like their partnership with Skillbox in India.
Yeah, that's smart. The global music landscape is changing rapidly, and a lot of the growth is coming from outside the U.S.
Right, they're going where the future of music is being made.
Exactly. They understand that to stay ahead of the curve, they need to embrace the diversity and the global nature of music.
So they're not just focused on, what's hot in the U.S. They're looking at the big picture,
Yeah.
the global music scene.
Yeah. Exactly. And they're actively seeking out opportunities to collaborate with local players who understand the nuances of their respective markets.
Okay, so let's circle back to that Spotify deal for a second.
Okay, the big one.
Yeah, earlier we were talking about their collaborative approach to growing the overall value of music. And, while we don't know the specifics of the deal, it's clear that they're trying to move away from that traditional revenue share model.
Right. That's been a big talking point for them.
So instead of just taking a cut of whatever Spotify makes, they're pushing for more control over pricing and packaging of their content.
Yeah, exactly. They want to be more like a hotel, setting their own rates and offering different packages instead of just being a landlord collecting rent.
But isn't that going to be a tough sell to the DSPs?
It's definitely a complex issue, but the fact that they're having these conversations and reaching agreements that are mutually beneficial is a positive sign.
So this new Spotify deal could be a step towards a new era in music distribution.
It could be. It definitely shows that both sides are open to exploring new models that could unlock more value for everyone involved.
Okay, so we've talked about their focus on talent acquisitions, global expansion collaborations with DSPs. What else is Warner Music Group doing to solidify their position in this rapidly changing industry?
Well, one thing we haven't touched on yet is their investment in technology.
Oh yeah, technology.
They're using data analytics to better understand listening trends and identify emerging talent.
So they're using big data to find the next big hit.
Exactly. They're also investing in new technologies like artificial intelligence to streamline their operations and create more immersive experiences for fans.
It sounds like they're really embracing the future of music.
They are. They're not afraid to experiment and push the boundaries.
And it's not just about technology. They're also focused on developing new revenue streams
Yeah.
beyond, the traditional album sales and streaming.
Right. They're thinking outside the box.
Like what?
Well, think merchandise, live events,
Right.
brand partnerships, maybe even the metaverse.
The metaverse again.
It's the future, man.
But the point is, they're exploring every avenue to monetize their music and connect with fans in new ways.
They're leaving no stone unturned.
So with all this innovation and strategic maneuvering, do you think Warner Music Group is well positioned for long-term success?
I think they're doing a lot of things right. Their focus on talent, their global reach, their willingness to embrace new technologies, those are all positive signs.
But are there any risks we should be aware of?
Well, I mean, competition is fierce in the music industry. New players are emerging all the time, and consumer habits are constantly evolving.
So they can't afford to rest on their laurels.
Exactly. They need to stay agile and adaptable to thrive in this dynamic environment.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground here before we move on to our This Is Not Financial Advice segment.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you think our listeners should be paying attention to when it comes to Warner Music Group?
I think it's important to keep an eye on their ability to execute on their ambitious plans. They've laid out a bold vision for the future, but turning that vision into reality is going to require careful planning and flawless execution.
So it's not just about having good ideas, it's about being able to actually implement them.
Exactly. And remember, folks, this is just our analysis of their earnings call. Do your own research and come to your own conclusions.
Always good advice.
Always.
Now, with that disclaimer out of the way, let's have some fun. It's time for This Is Not Financial Advice.
Okay, so here's one for you. Based on Warner Music Group's strategic focus on catalog music and emerging markets, what if we considered a long position on a company that specializes in digitizing and distributing classic Bollywood soundtracks?
Bollywood soundtracks. That's a new one.
I know, right? Think about it with the global rise of interest in Indian music and culture, coupled with Warner Music Group's own moves in the region. This could be a sneaky play on a niche market with huge growth potential.
I like where your head's at. It's a bold bet, but not entirely outlandish.
Right. And that's what we're all about here on This Is Not Financial Advice. Big ideas, unconventional thinking, and a healthy dose of speculation.
But just to be clear, this is purely hypothetical and for entertainment purposes. Only don't go running off to buy stock in Bollywood music just because you heard it on talk tickers. Do your own research before making any investment decisions.
Always, always.
So to wrap up this deep dive into Warner Music Group, it seems like they're in a pretty good position for continued success. They're focused on talent, expanding globally, embracing technology, and exploring new revenue streams.
Yeah, they're firing on all cylinders.
But they're not without their challenges, right?
Right. No company's perfect.
But they seem to be approaching the future with a clear vision and a willingness to adapt.
That's what matters most.
And for those of you looking for an investment opportunity, they might be worth adding to your watch list.
Definitely worth a look.
But before you make any decisions, do your homework.
Absolutely. Informed investing is the best kind of investing.
And on that note, we're signing off. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Warner Music Group's Q1 2025 earnings call.
See you next time.
It's fascinating to see how they're evolving, like a chameleon, adapting to the environment, but still staying true to their core.
Yeah.
Like a chameleon that still has, its chameleonness.
Right, exactly. It's like they're taking the best of both worlds, the old and the new, and blending them together to create something that's both familiar and innovative.
Yeah, and that's what makes this earnings call so interesting to me. It's like we're getting a front row seat to how a major music label is navigating this new world of music.
Right. It's not easy to stay ahead of the curve in such a dynamic industry, but Warner Music Group seems to be doing just that.
Yeah, they're facing challenges for sure, but they're also seizing opportunities and positioning themselves for future growth.
And you know what else is impressive? They're proving that there's still a place for the big players in an industry that's increasingly driven by independent artists and niche platforms.
Right. It's not just about being big. It's about being adaptable and strategic and having a deep understanding of the music marketplace.
Exactly. It's about being smart, and Warner Music Group seems to be just that.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the key takeaways for you? What should our listeners be paying attention to as Warner Music Group continues on this journey?
Well, I think the main thing to remember is that this is a company that's not afraid to change. They're not afraid to They're
Yeah.
they're actively adapting to a changing world. They're investing in their future. They're embracing innovation, and they're not shying away from challenges.
Yeah, that proactive approach is really evident in everything we've talked about today, from their acquisitions and strategic partnerships to their investment in technology and exploration of new revenue streams.
They're not just waiting for change to happen. They're actively shaping the future of music.
And that's what makes them so fascinating to watch. They operate in such a dynamic industry, but they're proving that they have the vision and the agility to succeed in the long run. So for anyone interested in the music industry or just in companies that are successfully navigating a rapidly changing world, Warner Music Group is definitely one to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. And with that said, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive.
Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us on Talk Tickers for this look into Warner Music Group's Q1 2025 earnings call.
Yeah, it was a great discussion.
Always a pleasure. And until next time, keep on ticking those tickers.
You keep those tunes playing.